There's no chair for you at the ceremony. Just come to the reception if you want. My mother sent that text at 11:14 on the night before my sister's wedding. The wedding I had spent 14 months planning, 14 months funding, 14 months holding together with every spare dollar, every favor called in, every weekend I had written off without complaint. No warning, no explanation. Just that sentence, sandwiched between a weather screenshot and a note reminding me what time the photographer was arriving. I read it 3 times in the dark. Then I set my phone face down on the nightstand and lay there staring at the ceiling. But what if that message wasn't the worst part? What if the real thing had been happening for years? Quietly, consistently, signed in my name, wrapped in the kind of casual entitlement that only exists in families where one person has always said yes. How do you make sense of people who borrowed your identity the way they borrowed your chargers and your patience? Without asking, without returning it, without thinking, for 1 second, you might eventually notice. My name is Lara. I am 31 years old. I work as a project manager at an architecture firm in Charlotte. And until that text came in, I had genuinely believed that what I did for my family was a version of love they would one day recognize. That the deposits and the logistics and the showing up, always the showing up, would eventually register as something worth saving a chair for. That my sister got engaged 18 months before all of this. She called me first, not to ask anything, just to say the words and let them land somewhere safe. I remember being genuinely happy for her. When she mentioned she didn't know where to start with venues, I made a few calls. Then came the catering walkthrough, the florist consult, the dress fitting where she needed a second opinion, and I drove 40 minutes each way without thinking twice. One thing pulled the next thing forward, the way it always went, until I was the one coordinating every moving part of a $31,000 wedding that was not mine. I know the exact number because I built the spreadsheet. Venue deposit, full catering payment, photographer's package, the floral arch she had circled in a magazine and handed to me without a word, the rehearsal dinner at the Italian place downtown, the bridal suite upgrade at the hotel, the calligraphed place cards she changed her mind on twice, the shuttle service for out-of-town guests she had forgotten to mention until 3 weeks before the date. My name on every contract, my card on every account. My sister had told me twice, very casually, that she and her husband-to-be would settle up once they got situated in the new apartment. Both times I had nodded, the way you nod at something you already know will never happen. I showed up to the venue the next morning wearing the sage green dress my sister had approved with a heart emoji 3 weeks prior. The parking lot was already filling. String lights were being tested along the pergola. The arch I had approved, the flowers I had selected, the whole beautiful thing looked exactly like the mood board we had made together on her kitchen floor one Sunday afternoon, with printouts and iced coffee. The venue coordinator met me at the entrance with a clipboard. She ran her finger down the guest list once, then again, the practiced patience of someone who has done this before. My name was not on the seated list. She offered, politely, to check with the bridal party. My mother appeared at the gate a few minutes later, corsage pinned, sunglasses already on despite the morning clouds. She looked at me the way you look at someone who has arrived at the wrong event. "You got my text," she said, not a question. "I got your text. The chair count came in wrong. We had to adjust." She said it the way you explain a seating shuffle at a dinner party, not a wedding that I had financed, start to finish. You can stand in the back during the ceremony. The reception is really the same thing. The same thing. I smiled just enough to hold the moment in place, said nothing, and walked back to my car. My hands did not shake. I sat in the driver's seat for a moment and looked through the windshield at the pergola, at the arch, at the string lights, at all of it exactly the way I had arranged for it to be. Then I pulled out of the lot and drove 2 miles down the road to a coffee shop. I was scrolling through email out of habit when I saw it. Subject line from a financial services company I did not recognize. "Your application has been approved. Signature card, $12,000 limit." I had not applied for any card from this company. I had not applied for any new card at all. I clicked through. Cardholder name, my full legal name. Social security number, mine. Date of birth, mine. Mailing address, my sister's new apartment. The stillness that came over me had nothing to do with calm. I called the number in the email. The representative pulled up the account without hesitation. The card had been opened 6 weeks ago. There had been charges already. A hotel block in Cancun for 10 nights, a furniture delivery to a Charlotte address. I recognized as my sister's. A car rental beginning the day after the wedding. The honeymoon. The new apartment furniture. The road trip they had mentioned once as something they were casually considering. I thanked the representative and hung up. I sat with the cold coffee for a long time. I thought about the storage unit charge I had noticed 18 months ago in my bank statements and written off as a billing glitch I never got around to disputing. I thought about the 3 Venmo requests from my brother-in-law, each labeled something temporary, none of them ever repaid. I thought about my mother's streaming subscription, which I had added her to during the early months of the pandemic as a kindness, which had continued charging my card without comment or acknowledgement for 2.5 years. I thought about how a family functions when one person has been saying yes so for gravity that yes begins to feel like gravity. Not a choice, just a condition of the environment. I thought about being 9 years old, at the kitchen table on my birthday, with a grocery store cupcake I had picked out myself, because I was told we were not doing a big thing that year. My parents came home 2 hours late from my sister's school showcase. My father apologized and said the program ran long. My mother hugged me and said we would celebrate properly on the weekend, the way she always meant it. The weekend never happened. The next morning, my sister saw the cupcake on the counter and asked if she could have it, and my mother said yes without pausing. I carried it to the sink and didn't say a word. I had learned that silence early. I had been refining it ever since. I drove home and opened my laptop. The document I made was not a list of grievances. It was a record, factual, dated, specific. Every transfer, every recurring charge, every time I had absorbed a cost without registering it as one. When I finished and looked at the total, I was not surprised. That was the thing I kept coming back to. I was not surprised at all. Then my phone buzzed with a group chat notification I shouldn't have received. My sister had screenshotted a text conversation and sent it to the wrong person, to me instead of our mother. The message was hers, sent 40 minutes ago. Don't stress about Lara. She's not going to do anything. She never makes it about herself. I read it once. Put the phone down on the desk, read it again. She never makes it about herself. I opened a new tab. The photography studio answered on the second ring. I was the named client on the contract. I explained there had been a family emergency requiring cancellation. The 48-hour window closed 11 hours ago. I was inside it. No charge. The booking was released. I called the florist. My name, my card, my cancellation. The morning delivery, the ceremony arch, the centerpieces, the aisle petals, all of it. The florist confirmed within 4 minutes and expressed sympathy about the family situation. The catering manager asked if I was certain twice. I told him I was. He said the food had been prepped and asked about the policy on prepared inventory. I told him I understood the situation and confirmed the cancellation regardless. He noted it in the file. The food would not be delivered. I canceled the shuttle company next. Then the string quartet's final payment, which had not yet been processed, I removed my card from the authorization before it went through. By 1 a.m, 7 hours before the ceremony, there was a rented venue and a marriage license and a string quartet and nothing else. No photographs, no flowers, no food, no car waiting after. I made chamomile tea. I did not contact my sister. I did not call my mother. I muted every notification and went to bed with the kind of deliberate calm that comes from having already decided. The calls started at 6:47 in the morning. My sister first, then my mother, then my brother-in-law, then my mother again, then a number I didn't recognize that turned out to be my brother-in-law calling from his hotel room phone. I watched the screen pulse and go dark, pulse and go dark. I let every one of them roll to voicemail and opened my laptop instead. I filed the dispute on the fraudulent credit card. I was assigned a case number and told a specialist would follow up within 5 business days. I froze the account pending investigation. Then I went through my banking history, line by line, for the first time with the kind of attention I should have been paying for years. The joint account I had opened with my parents during my father's illness 3 years ago, when someone needed to manage the household bills, and I had been the one who knew how. I had meant to close it when things stabilized. Looking at the transaction history now, I could see it had continued to function for 28 months past that. Grocery deliveries, a home repair deposit, charges from a landscaping company at my parents' address, a recurring charge for a pharmacy I didn't use. I closed the account. I removed my mother's streaming subscription from my card. I pulled up every automatic payment tied to my accounts and redirected anything that was mine to a private checking account I had quietly opened 6 months ago, on an unremarkable afternoon, some part of me apparently already doing the math. By early afternoon, 11 voicemails. I listened to all of them so I could be sure I wasn't missing something real. None contained an apology. Several were variations of the same message. I had been selfish. I had been cruel. I had chosen the worst possible day. I had done something unforgivable to the most important morning of my sister's life. My brother-in-law's was the final one. His voice had the careful quality of someone who knows exactly how much they owe and is hoping volume will substitute for accountability. "You knew what today was," he said. "You knew what you were doing." I deleted every message. That evening, I drove out to my aunt's place, 40 minutes north of the city. Not because I needed somewhere to hide. Just because hers was the one porch where I had always been allowed to sit without needing a reason for being there. She opened the door before I reached the steps, the way she always had, and handed me a glass of sweet tea without asking any questions. We sat on the back porch and watched the light go out of the sky, while fireflies started up in the yard below. She didn't ask what had happened. She waited until I was ready to tell it. When I did, she listened to the whole thing. She didn't interrupt and she didn't minimize. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment, looking out at the yard. "I've watched them do this to you for a long time," she said finally. She said it carefully, like it had been sitting in her chest for years. I didn't know how to say it without it feeling like I was causing trouble. "I'm sorry I stayed quiet." She went inside and came back with an envelope. The paper was soft at the edges, the kind of old that happens in a drawer rather than from use. My grandmother's handwriting on the front, just my name and nothing else. My aunt said she had found it in a box she had been meaning to go through for a while. Inside was a single page, dated more than a decade ago. "Lara, I know you. You are going to pour yourself into people who do not think to ask whether you have anything left. I have watched you do it your whole life, quietly, without complaint, like it doesn't cost you anything. I need you to know that I see what it costs. The people who love you the way you deserve to be loved will make room for you without being told to. They will not need to be reminded that you exist. Do not build your life around people who only look up when they need something. You are worth a seat at the table, not a space in the back. All my love, always." I read it twice before anything happened in my chest. When it did, it was quiet. Not a collapse, just a release. The particular relief of being seen accurately, even in absence, even years late. I drove back to Charlotte 2 days later. On the way home, I called the recruiter about the position in Raleigh I had been sitting on for 3 weeks. The offer I had hesitated over because of how it would affect my skill, my availability, my proximity to people who had not saved me a chair. I accepted it on a Monday morning, with the windows open, and enough silence in the room to hear myself thinking clearly. The group chat went quiet for 5 days. Then my sister posted vacation photos. Her and her husband on the beach in Cancun, sunburned and laughing, hearts in the caption, comments from relatives saying how beautiful it all was. I scrolled past it twice before I felt ready to leave the chat. Then I did. No announcement, no explanation. Just gone. I have one bank account now. My name, my address, my card. One phone plan. No bundled anything with anyone. My direct deposit lands in an account no one else can access. My credit is locked and monitored. My case number from the fraud dispute sits in a folder on my desktop, alongside the receipts for every vendor I paid and every payment I have documented. I kept my grandmother's letter. It lives in the top drawer of my nightstand, under nothing, available whenever I want to read it. Some mornings I think about that spreadsheet. All those line items, all those amounts, all those years of performing a kind of love that was never returned in the same currency. Not even close. And I think, what I was actually paying for, all that time, was the hope that someday they would look up and see me standing there and realize I had earned a place at this table. They never did. They were too busy, assuming I would keep covering the cost of the table. I understand now what I couldn't name then. The quietest way to disappear is to keep showing up for people who have already decided you don't need a seat. And the loudest thing I ever did for myself had nothing to do with confrontation or revenge or making anyone understand what they had lost. It was just the moment I stopped. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just Lara, one account, one city, one life that belongs entirely to me.